Stop for just a moment, because what you are about to hear may touch a truth many people feel but rarely have the courage to say out loud. Growing old is not only about gray hair, weaker knees, slower mornings, or the number written on a medical chart. The painful truth is much quieter than that. It arrives in small moments that no one warned you about. It arrives when the house becomes still after the children leave. It arrives when old friends stop calling because they are tired, sick, distant, or gone. It arrives when the world begins moving faster than your body can follow, and people who once needed your guidance now speak as if your wisdom belongs to another time. Most people talk about aging as if it is only a matter of staying healthy, saving money, taking medicine, and keeping busy. But very few speak about the invisible losses. And yet, if you are listening to this, it means there is still a fire inside you. Maybe your life no longer looks the way it once did, but your soul is still awake, still observing, still learning, still asking what all of this means. The painful truth about growing old is not that life becomes meaningless. It is that life forces you to discover meaning without all the things that once gave you identity. Titles fade. Roles change. Strength declines. Applause becomes quieter. The people who once gathered around you begin building lives of their own. And suddenly you are left with the question every human being must face eventually. Who am I when I am no longer useful in the ways the world used to reward? This is where many people suffer in silence. They do not always say, I feel invisible. They say, I am fine. They do not always say, I miss who I used to be. They say, I am just tired today. Age teaches people to hide pain behind dignity. It teaches them to smile when their heart is carrying memories too heavy for ordinary conversation. It teaches them to make peace with absences that cannot be repaired. But Stoic wisdom asks us not to run from the truth. It asks us to look at life honestly, not because honesty removes pain, but because it gives pain a place to become wisdom. One of the first painful truths about growing old is realizing that the world does not pause for your memories. Places change. Homes are sold. Shops close. Streets are rebuilt. Songs that once filled the air become old music. Faces that once filled your days become photographs. You may pass a familiar corner and remember an entire lifetime, while everyone around you sees only a road. Others may listen, but they cannot live inside what you lived. They cannot feel the exact weight of that summer, that kitchen, that laugh, that argument, that person who no longer sits beside you. Growing old means carrying invisible worlds inside you while the visible world keeps replacing everything you knew. But there is also dignity in this. To remember is to prove that a life was lived deeply. Every memory, even the painful ones, is evidence that you were here, that you loved, worked, risked, hoped, failed, and continued. The young often think the present moment belongs only to them, but an older person knows that every present moment is built on thousands of vanished ones. You are not empty because the past is gone. You are rich because it passed through you. The challenge is not to live trapped in memory, but to allow memory to soften you instead of imprisoning you. The past should become a lamp, not a chain. It should light the path behind you so you can understand how far you have come, not pull you backward until you forget that this morning is still asking to be lived. Another truth nobody talks about is the grief of becoming less necessary. For many years, people may have depended on you. Children needed your hands, your money, your protection, your advice. Work needed your energy. A spouse needed your presence. Friends needed your strength. Problems arrived, and somehow you were expected to answer them. Then one day, almost without warning, the phone rings less. Decisions are made without you. People say, we did not want to bother you, or we already handled it. This kind of grief is difficult to explain because it is not exactly rejection. It is not always cruelty. Often, it is simply the natural movement of time. People grow. Families change. The younger generation must learn to stand on its own. But knowing this does not remove the ache. The heart still remembers when your presence was essential. The mind still asks, do they need me anymore? And beneath that question is a deeper fear. If I am not needed, am I still valuable? This is where the world lies to older people. It teaches that value depends on productivity, speed, usefulness, and constant contribution. But a human being is not a tool. Your worth did not begin when someone needed you, and it does not end when they need you less. Your value is not measured by how many problems you solve, but by the life, character, and wisdom that time has carved into you. There is also the painful truth of watching your body become a stranger. Things that once happened without thought now require planning. Standing up, sleeping well, carrying groceries, reading small print, climbing stairs, remembering names, recovering from illness, all of it can become a quiet negotiation. The body that carried you through decades begins asking for patience. And sometimes patience is hard, because inside you may still feel younger than the mirror suggests. You may still remember running, dancing, working late, traveling easily, moving through the world with confidence. Then one morning your hands tremble slightly, or your back aches in a familiar way, or you need help with something you once did for others. It can feel like betrayal. But the body is not betraying you. It has been loyal for a long time. It carried every burden, every sleepless night, every heartbreak, every meal skipped, every worry swallowed, every duty performed. It protected you through seasons you thought would break you. Now it asks you to listen differently. Stoicism teaches that we should not curse what nature has always promised. Everything that lives changes. Everything that rises eventually slows. The goal is not to hate the body for aging, but to honor it for staying with you as long as it has. Treat it with tenderness, not resentment. Walk slower if you must, but walk with gratitude. Rest more if you must, but do not call rest weakness. Accept help if you must, but do not confuse needing help with losing dignity. Another truth about growing old is that loneliness can exist even when people are around. You can be sitting in a room full of family and still feel strangely alone because no one asks the questions that reach your heart. They ask about medicine, appointments, bills, and whether you need anything from the store. But they do not always ask what you miss, what you fear, what memory visited you last night, what regret still follows you quietly, what hope you still carry. Sometimes older people are cared for physically but ignored emotionally. Their needs are managed, but their inner life is left untouched. This is one of the deepest forms of loneliness, to be looked after but not truly listened to. And yet, even this pain can become a teacher. It can remind you to speak honestly before silence becomes a habit. It can remind you to seek the few people who are willing to listen deeply, even if they are not many. A small circle of genuine attention is worth more than a large circle of polite distance. If you have someone who listens without rushing you, treasure them. If you do not, begin by becoming that kind of listener to yourself. Write your thoughts. Pray with honesty. Sit with your memories without shame. Speak your truth into a quiet room if no one else is ready to hear it. Your inner life still matters. Your story is still sacred, even when the world becomes too hurried to ask for it. There is another pain hidden inside age, the pain of unfinished things. Dreams you never followed. Apologies never given. Words you swallowed. Trips postponed too long. Friendships that faded. Love that was never fully expressed. Mistakes that cannot be undone. When a person is young, the future feels wide enough to hide every regret. There is always later. Later to forgive. Later to begin again. Later to say what matters. But age makes later feel smaller. It brings certain questions closer. Did I live honestly? Did I love enough? Did I spend too much time trying to please people who were never satisfied? Did I postpone my own peace for too many years? These questions can be painful, but they are not enemies. They are invitations. Regret becomes destructive only when it convinces you that nothing can be done now. But while you are breathing, some form of repair is still possible. Maybe you cannot change what happened, but you can change the meaning you give it. Maybe you cannot return to an old road, but you can stop punishing yourself for not walking it. Maybe you cannot recover lost years, but you can protect the years that remain from the same mistakes. The purpose of reflection is not self-punishment. It is freedom. It is the soul saying, I have seen what cost me peace, and I will not keep paying. Another truth nobody talks about is that growing old reveals who truly loves you. When you are strong, useful, entertaining, generous, and able to give, many people may stand near you. But when your pace slows, your needs increase, your money becomes guarded, your energy becomes limited, and your ability to please everyone fades, certain people begin to reveal themselves. Some disappear. Some become impatient. Some treat your boundaries as inconvenience. Some visit only when there is something to gain. This can hurt deeply, because age does not only weaken the body. It also removes illusions from relationships. But this removal is not only loss. It is clarity. The people who remain with tenderness, patience, respect, and consistency are showing you a rare kind of love. They may not be perfect, but they do not make you feel like a burden for being human. They do not rush your stories as if your past is an interruption. They do not speak to you as if age has erased your mind. They do not measure you only by what you can still do for them. These are the people who deserve your remaining warmth. Growing old teaches that a smaller circle is not always a sad thing. Sometimes it is life finally removing the crowd so you can see the faithful few. There is also a quiet fear many older people carry, the fear of dependence. The fear that one day decisions will be made over your head. The fear of needing rides, reminders, assistance, care. The fear that your privacy will shrink and your independence will become negotiable. This fear is not foolish. Independence is deeply connected to dignity. After a lifetime of making choices, it is painful to imagine needing permission, supervision, or constant help. But the deeper truth is that dignity does not come from doing everything alone. Dignity comes from being treated as a whole person, even when help is needed. This is why it is important to prepare without shame. Speak clearly about your wishes. Protect your documents. Choose trusted people carefully. Ask questions. Keep learning. Do not surrender your voice before life requires anything from you. The Stoic person does not pretend weakness will never come. The Stoic person prepares the mind, orders the affairs, and accepts reality without panic. Dependence may come in certain forms, but helplessness of spirit is not inevitable. Even when the body requires help, the mind can remain awake, the character can remain steady, and the soul can remain dignified. Another painful truth is that death becomes less abstract. When you are young, death feels like a distant idea that belongs to other people. But as years pass, it begins to step closer. You attend more funerals. You hear more diagnoses. You notice empty chairs at family gatherings. You understand that time is not endless. This awareness can bring fear, but it can also bring astonishing clarity. The thought of death, when faced honestly, does not have to darken life. It can sharpen it. It can remind you to stop wasting energy on arguments that do not matter, possessions you do not need, pride that keeps love distant, and resentment that poisons the little time still available. Stoicism has always taught that remembering mortality is not morbid. It is liberating. When you remember that life is temporary, you begin to ask better questions. What deserves my attention today? Who should hear my kindness while I can still speak it? What burden can I lay down before it follows me to the end? What beauty have I ignored because I was too busy worrying? Death does not only take life. The awareness of death can give life back to those brave enough to listen. It can return your eyes to the morning light, your gratitude to a simple meal, your tenderness to a familiar hand, your patience to a difficult day. And still, perhaps the most painful truth about growing old is realizing that no one can fully walk this inner journey for you. Others may love you, assist you, visit you, and pray for you, but the deepest work of age happens inside your own heart. You must make peace with your story. You must forgive what can be forgiven. You must accept what cannot be changed. You must release the need to be understood by everyone. You must decide whether your final years will be ruled by bitterness or shaped by wisdom. No one can choose that for you. This sounds heavy, but hidden inside it is a great freedom. If no one else can walk the inner path for you, then no one else can take it from you either. Your spirit remains your own. Your perspective remains your own. Your ability to respond with dignity remains your own. Even if life becomes smaller on the outside, it can become deeper on the inside. A chair by the window can become a place of prayer. A slow walk can become a meditation. A quiet afternoon can become a classroom. A memory can become a blessing. A loss can become a reminder to love what remains. Growing old is painful because it strips life down to truth. It removes the decorations. It asks what was real. It shows which relationships had depth, which ambitions were empty, which worries were unnecessary, and which simple moments were more precious than you realized at the time. But this stripping away is not only cruel. It can also be sacred. The tree in winter is not dead simply because it has lost its leaves. It stands more honestly. Its shape is visible. Its roots are tested. Its strength is no longer hidden by decoration. In the same way, age reveals the shape of your soul. So do not let anyone reduce your aging to decline alone. Yes, there is loss. Yes, there is pain. Yes, there are mornings when courage is required before breakfast. But there is also wisdom that cannot be purchased, calm that cannot be faked, and a depth of understanding that only years can create. You have seen enough illusions to value truth. You have lost enough to recognize what should be cherished. You have survived enough to know that many storms eventually pass. This is not a small thing. This is the quiet authority of a life endured. Here at Stoic Beacon, we believe that growing old should not be covered in false comfort. It should be faced with honesty and respect. The painful truth is that aging will take certain things from you. But it can also return you to yourself. It can teach you to stop performing, stop chasing, stop begging for approval, and stop wasting your remaining strength on what does not nourish your spirit. It can teach you to choose peace over noise, sincerity over popularity, presence over speed, and gratitude over regret. It can teach you that the final chapters of life are not meaningless simply because they are quieter. Sometimes the quiet chapters contain the deepest wisdom. If you are growing old, or if someone you love is growing old, remember this. Do not treat the elderly as faded versions of who they once were. They are libraries of invisible battles, private sacrifices, lost names, hidden griefs, unfinished prayers, and lessons earned through years that younger eyes cannot yet understand. And if you are the one carrying those years, do not speak to yourself with contempt. You are not a burden because you move slower. You are not useless because your role has changed. You are not invisible because some people forgot how to see. You are still here. That means your presence still has meaning. Your words still have weight. Your kindness still matters. Your boundaries still matter. Your peace still matters. Your story still matters. Let the painful truth of growing old make you softer where softness is needed and stronger where strength is required. Let it remove what is false and protect what is sacred. Let it teach you to live the time that remains not in fear of what has been lost, but in reverence for what is still possible. Thank you for spending this time with Stoic Beacon. May your heart find peace with the past, courage for the present, and quiet hope for every morning still waiting to meet you.